when the money's easy, people in the financial world get taken for granted. What do I need you for? What am I paying you 1%? I could do this better myself. To a point, all monkeys can hit the target. But again, as I said, you don't pay me to put you in, you're going to pay me to keep you in and know what to do when the shit's hitting the fan.
This is Brandon Turner, and you are listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni, and today's guest is Bruce Weinstein. So, Bruce, super excited to have you on the show. The Plan Man, your whole thing is Ask the Plan Man, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to ask the Plan Man some questions. So,
Let's
Bruce,
go.
thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate you being kind enough to have me on the show, Mike. And we are all our average Joes, and we want to help people raise the bar and become more than just average. So I think
Absolutely.
we have similar messages for our listeners out there. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, again, thank you so much. Now, I want to start this off the same way I start every podcast episode, and we want to know more about you. So we want to know your background, your story, as far as you want to go into it. But
All right.
Who is Bruce Weinstein?
I don't want to go that far back, but I've been a financial planner, financial advisor since 1986. This September, I'll be celebrating my 37th year having been in the industry. And I went from a cold calling cowboy, stockbroker, Merrill Lynch, calling out of a phone book, to getting very early on methodology of planning. One of the reasons I left Merrill Lynch is my manager was like, I don't pay you to think, I pay you to sell. And I didn't operate that way, even at 23 years of age. To me, it didn't make sense. I want to know more about Mike, his family, his situation, his goals. And financial planning really didn't come about to the later 90s. And this is maybe 12, 15 years down the road from where I started. The stockbrokers out there had a mission to sell their stuff. And I wanted to know how I can help them improve their finances and get to know their situation. And then so I became, and one of my lines is, I have nothing to sell, just problems to solve. And so we've done investment work over the years. We're primarily focused on insurance work these years. My wife and I started Weinstein Wealth Insurance Solutions a little over 2.5 years ago, after having sold a $100 million asset book of business in 2016. And we did it because people are just so uneducated and unfamiliar in the world of insurance, let alone investments. And so we got licensed, and we're working in half the country. We're not in Hawaii. We can change that if you like, but we're not licensed in Hawaii today, but California and the West Coast, we're pretty covered. And so we're in the world of health insurance and Medicare and life insurance and disability and long-term care and auto and home and everything else. And so we cover all aspects there. And then we partner with attorneys and accountants and actual investment advisors these days, because we don't keep the license anymore for investments. And we'll partner with them, and we'll be the quarterback. We'll be that navigator of your ship. And it's all about the plan, whether it's an exit plan or a business plan or a tax plan, but it's a financial plan. And it's financial planning literacy is what we're promoting. And that's our message. That's our deliverable. And I think that goes in line with what you're doing with Average Joe.
Yeah, Bruce, I like that, because especially with what your message is, because when you first got into the industry, it was all about, hey, they wanted you to sell what their products were. And your focus was like, no, I want to help these individuals with what their problems are, what their financial burdens are, right? So I like the fact that you shifted your mentality to not be in that sales realm, but to be more in that problem solving realm. Because for the people that are listening to my show, you already know, when the people that I interview on here, whether they're real estate investors or stock investors, whatever it is that they're investing in, there's always a problem that needed to be solved before they were successful, right? And even after you're successful, there's still problems that you have to solve. So being a problem solver is huge. Now, I know when it comes to insurance, there's obviously a lot of problems when it comes to insurance, right? Because this
Yeah.
is something we were talking about pre-recording about how many different insurances people need, whether it's in your business or just in life in general, between homeowners insurance, hurricane insurance, or if you have a business, you need to have disability insurance, all these other different things that you have to put together. And when you start looking at the numbers, you're like, man, I'm paying a mortgage payment on all of these insurance bills. So what is it that you like to talk about when it comes to planning for what the right insurance policies are for you?
Think in general that any kind of planning has to do with people's specific stages of life. So when I market and people say, what are you looking for? Or who's your ideal client and things of that nature? I'll come back a lot of times with people who are experiencing a life event. You got married, you had a baby, you got divorced, you changed jobs, you moved. So all of these life events, as we age up, your needs and priorities start to change. So when you're a high school graduate, may or may not be going to college, now you're of driving age, you need car insurance. You get a job that may or may not provide you benefits, you might need health insurance. If you work for a big company, they're going to give you disability insurance. A lot of people don't even understand what their benefits are given to them, let alone those who don't get it, what they need to have. So a self-employed, you're professional like a doctor, dentist, CPA, a lawyer. If they're self-employed, right, they're not working for AT&T, they're not working for Elon Musk at Tesla, they're not getting benefits. They've got to go get their own benefits. You're in the real estate space, you're a real estate investor and you're generating passive income or flipping houses, or again, whatever you're doing in real estate. If you can't operate your business, who's going to do those next deals? Who's going to do that flip and fix it up? If you're doing the physical work, if you're disabled, what's going to happen here? And if you have a spouse and you have a family, well, who's going to pick up that slack when your income gets cut off? Which is why people like passive income opportunities, right? It takes some of that pressure away. It becomes an inflow of money instead of an outflow of money, right? If I've got enough properties generating income and I get disabled, my income's still coming in. But if I'm relying on a 9 to 5 job or self-employed, more like 12 to 12 job, but you're working 12 hours a day. I only work a half a day. I only work 12
Yeah,
hours.
there you go.
If I'm relying on my physical workload, if I'm a billable hour type of person like an attorney, and now I can't bill those hours, what's going to happen? So they have a lot more pressure on disability coverage. So if circling back to your question, it depends on where you are in your life, and those needs will increase, decrease, come off, and come on. So disability will run through a certain age range where now we start talking to clients that have financial success and freedom, where disability dollars move into long-term care, which is as you get older, right? So 60 and above market, mid-50s are going to start to consider and look at long-term care, which is nursing home care, assisted living, because that's the back end. And so if you don't want your assets to get gobbled up by a nursing home situation, you want your money to go to your kids. I just had a poll today with somebody who had a kidney transplant, one of my fraternity brothers. The biggest thing he's concerned about is his money gets eaten up if his health worsens again, that he doesn't leave that money to the kids, that it's going to go to his health expenses. What does he do? What can we do to solve that fear? So that's a problem. So now we have to talk about, is he insurable? Because he's had a kidney transplant. Maybe he's not insurable. He can't even get one of those programs. It's too late. Again, not to go down the rabbit hole, but so what do we need to do? We need to get it on his wife, because if he eats up all the money, she's healthy. Now we'll have the coverage for her. So if he uses all the money, she doesn't feel like she's got nothing. So we got to get coverage on her so that if she now needs it and the money's gone, we could still take care of her. So it's just analyzing the situations. And here's the biggest problem, Mike, with insurance is you got to be insurable. And I can't tell you how many people come to me of, I just got diagnosed with cancer. I need life insurance. Oh, sorry. Come on now. There's a reason why. And people don't understand, why are they asking me all these questions? Let me ask you something, Mike. Would you buy a used car without your mechanic ever checking it out?
No, I don't think I would.
Okay. Why would a life insurance company want to buy your life without checking you out?
Absolutely.
It's the same scenario, right? People like part of this is the entitlement, right? People feel they're entitled. They should be able to get life insurance no matter what their situation. And it doesn't work that way. You're asking somebody to bet on your life. If you're 400-pound smoking diabetic, nobody's going to touch you with a 10-foot pole. You have no rights. Nobody owes you anything. So the better your health, the better all of that stuff, then the better your premiums will be. And it's the same with your auto insurance. When you have 16 traffic accidents, speeding tickets, and problems, do you think State Farm wants you? No, Progressive don't want you, Geico don't want you, the General don't want you. You're a problem. And the rates will be impacted accordingly. Am I answering your question? Or am I going down?
No, that's a great point. And that's why one of the things I'm glad about I did when I was younger still was go and get these life insurance policies on myself and my wife at a very good point in our lives to where we probably got the best possible premiums. And now I've since retired from the Navy and have other issues that come up, but it's not really a problem now at this point because I had already did everything at the right time.
Again, another one of these lines is you're never going to be younger and you're never going to be healthier than you are today, at least statistically. Okay. So insurance, life insurance is age-based. So when you're 30, the rates are going to be super cheap. When you're 60, not so much. I just turned 60. So if I want to get new life insurance, now I've won, right? I've made it this far. I'm in good health. I've maintained, I don't take any medications, knock wood. So I might get a preferred rate, but I'm going to pay as a 60-year-old preferred instead of a 30-year-old preferred. And it's going to be incrementally more expensive. But from their point of view, I've already won the game that from 30 to 60, I didn't die tragically. Again, knock wood, right? Something didn't happen. You know, you and I could both make a list of people we know that have died prematurely, right? Where they didn't make it past certain ages. And I've got family included. My mother passed. This is my why, if you will. My mother passed away at 45 years of age from cancer, and I was 22. And my mother lived on, and this is what I talk about on my website, has some articles on it, is someday I'll do this, and someday I'll do that. And her someday I'll didn't come because she got sick. And so that motivated me as a 23-year-old to help people not get in their own way financially. Look, how many times have you heard this, Mike? Mike, if you won the lottery, what would you do differently? Would you keep working? What would you do differently? Obviously, it depends on how much you want, right?
Yeah, it depends. That's a question I always think about all the time because a lot of people in my circle say that all the time. Hey, if you were to win the lottery right now, what would you do? What would you change? And if you're going to sit here and change something, then what is it about your life right now that makes you unhappy?
But even more to where I used it is, again, I got a lot of little anecdotes, is you already have your lottery ticket. You just don't know the turn-in date. Okay, so think about that. Everybody has the ability to cash in when they can. It's, are you in a fiscal position to do everything you want and be financially independent? So whether that means you need to save $1 million or $5 million or $50 million, what makes you financially secure is all about you and your wife and your family, right? So you might be comfortable with $100,000 in the bank for the rest of your life and retire immediately. It's all relative to what your needs and what I call your fee. What do you want for yourself? Yeah, I'd love to win $1 billion. Somebody in California just won, and now whatever the other one's going to be $1 billion this weekend. Yeah, 400 million after taxes in advance. I could do some damage with that. We could have a good time. But does anybody need that kind of money? No. 4 million? Yeah. 2 million? Yeah. So what do I need to do in my journey, college age, high school age, whatever it is? I'm not disparaging people have to go to college these days. Certainly you don't need that. But whatever your path is, 18 to 22, you have to make decisions. An 18-year-old that's making money and banking that money had a 4-year head start on me as a college graduate, right? So time value of money, if they were doing it right from day one, I can never catch up. They got 4 years ahead of me. So it's just a matter of what you do and when you want to do it. If you want to retire at 50, what does that look like? Right. So that's the plan. That's where the plan man comes from, right? It's planning. It's not my wishes. Whoever you're working with as an advisor, it's not about them. It's about you. They should be making it about you. Mike, put it on the table. Let's talk about it. What's your wife's name, Mike?
Jamie.
Jamie. So what do you and Jamie want? What's your woody woofy? If in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen? Now, how do we correlate that financially? How much you need to save, what rate of return, how fast is that journey? And then get you there. Why? And I don't know how old you are, but my mother didn't get there. She didn't make it past 45. I'm 60 now. I got a third of my life more than she got. Guess what I got to do with that? And so she missed that. So anybody that thinks, oh, I'll just wait till I retire and I'm going to retire at 65, 29% of people born don't reach the age of 60, almost 30% of the population. What can they do differently?
That's definitely a great point. I think about that often because when I look back at my mom's life too, she passed at 42, and now I'm getting
sorry.
closer to that number. And I'm gonna, knock on wood, make it past that. And then my dad passed in early in the 60s. So
Sorry.
it's a lot that I look at. I'm just like asking questions about things, but they also live their lives a lot different than I did. I focus a lot more now on my health, and I started focusing on my health a lot younger than they ever did. So it's the way I look at it is I plan to live to a ripe old age unless something else gets in the way and stops me from doing so. And that's the way I plan my life. So I want to make sure that I'm setting myself and my family up for me to live to, 90, 100 years old, 120, whatever, 140. With technology today, who knows what we'll get to, right?
I'm not sure. I want that.
But I want to be able to plan out for that so that I know that I'm not going to be a financial burden on my family in the future, right? So that's why I've got the life insurance policies, and I've got the right medical insurance and everything else that I've got. And I feel like not enough people look at it that way, and they just think about the here and now. This is what I need to do right now that makes me comfortable. Well, what's going to make you comfortable in the future, right? So that's why I like your whole message about being the plan man, right? Not only knowing the right insurance plans, but also planning for the future. So there's a lot that you could put into that name that comes with that. So I just want to say that I really appreciate the message that you share, because I feel like this is a message that a lot of people need to hear. And sometimes when they hear it, it falls on deaf ears. So I'm hoping that hearing it from someone else, having you come on and share this,
different messenger,
that people are going to listen and say, you know what? Okay, I do need to get this stuff and get my affairs in order, because there's so many things you could do. I can also invest with my life insurance plan, right? So I can borrow from it if I need to. So there's little things that I did differently as an investor, because I felt like that was the best plan for me moving forward. Where other people might say, I don't want to do it that way. I just want a term plan or whatever. I don't want whole life insurance, whatever. I have both. I have a whole life insurance policy and I have term. I have the term up against my mortgage on the house.
Different needs.
Yeah, different needs. Exactly.
Anyway, you said, no, you're good. I had a couple points I wanted to jump in on that you mentioned, but I wasn't intending to cut you off there. So I apologize. So there's two problems you mentioned: apathy and selfishness.
Absolutely.
Okay. So people, you mentioned the life insurance and you mentioned not being a burden on your family. So you're going to be a burden on your family if you're disabled, you're sickly, and you can't make an income and you don't have insurance to protect. If you're dead, you're not a burden on your family. Now, your family might have a burden because they can't replace your income. They can't pay the mortgage. They're going to have to sell the house. And that's what life insurance takes care of. So life insurance is not for you, it's for them. So that's a selfless act. So when people say, I don't need life insurance, you don't need it. Your family needs it. What's going to happen to them? And so you have to poke the pain. So good for you in that regard. Apathy is it's always going to happen to somebody else. It's never going to happen to me. And until you get older and you have more responsibilities, and this is where really the rubber hits the road, is until you experience it and see what it's like to go through it, it won't be a priority for you at your table. Me seeing my mother get cancer at 39 and dying at 5, I experienced. Me watching my 85-year-old grandmother live 5 more years pinging between my father and my aunt because there was no money to take care of her, put her in assisted living of some kind. They were her assisted living. And do you know what that did sacrifice-wise for my aunt and my father in their lives as I was bearing them grandchildren and what they couldn't do because they were taking care of an 89-year-old failing? My grandmother was sharp, but physically she was diminished. And so the family didn't have the money. So again, there's choices to be made. You've got to decide, what do you want? So now when I've been doing long-term care planning with clients since the early 90s, okay? And its products have changed and the programs have changed, but the easiest client to enroll in a plan had just experienced it within their family. And it tended to be the women. The men are all, oh, bravado. My buddy put a gun in my mouth. Yeah, okay. Two 90-year-olds with their hands shaking with Parkinson's are going to try and pull the trigger on each other. That's going to happen. That's just not going to happen. When they experience it with their mother, their aunt, their grandmother, it's what do I need to do that I don't have to experience that, or I don't want my kids to experience that and have to deal with that. And those are the layups, right? Those are the layups. When I say apathy and the selfish, part. That's the problem, what gets in the way. And that could be on investing. It could be on anything. It's people want today, they want the cell phone and the fancier car. And I've got an episode on car leasing versus financing and the trap of leasing. That's one of my episodes on Ask the Plan Man. And that's living a lifestyle above your means. And so what are you sacrificing in exchange for that? And I won't mention names, but a dear friend wanted life insurance on her husband numerous years ago, and he wouldn't stop smoking. Now, for those of you who don't understand what that means is smoker rates are up to 5 times more than a non-smoker. So the insurance was way more expensive and became unaffordable, and they never got life insurance on him. Now, the Audi A3 became an A5, which became a Q7. So putting the money in a fancier car over getting some life insurance became a decision. And now it's 3 years. He was coming home from work and he had a head-on collision with an 18-wheeler and ultimately didn't survive. And no life insurance with a daughter leaving for college. He was the majority breadwinner, and now her life is turned upside down. And that decision was based upon their priorities. And I feel guilt because I'm like, we'll take less, do something, something's better than nothing. But no, I'm going to get him to stop smoking. It never happened. Selfish, apathy, not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to my neighbor. And then bam, one day the whole thing changed. And he's my age, obviously not my age, but he should be my age, right? He's 59, 6. So yeah, that's the stuff you try and still in people in education and understanding, because just open the obituaries every day and look at the ages. They're not all 90-year-olds. So
that's a great point. And something else you said too about the whole thing with life insurance and smokers, right? My wife and I were both smokers, but we were both quitters with enough years that it didn't even affect our life insurance policy. So there is like some silver lining there that if you are a smoker and you want to quit, you can quit and give it some time. And when you get your life insurance policy, or if you're a quitter, if you think that because you smoked in the past that, oh, it's just going to be too expensive, try it out. Because if you quit and you go through everything, you show them that you quit and they do the blood work and everything comes back good, it's going to be like a non-issue. And that's what it was for me. So thankfully, that was something we did. I'm glad we quit too, because it wasn't a good thing to do. So if you're a smoker, you should quit.
So I like giving so whats, right? My show, we give so what. So here's a so what for your listener. You get the insurance as a smoker to get something in place. If you can go and document a minimum of 12 months and go back to the insurance company, a lot of times they will reclassify you and reduce the premium. You don't have to go get a new plan and start over. Now, if you're in the type of company that won't do that, then yeah, you need to reapply and it's probably worth doing. But you got to document and you got to show that you legitimately stopped. And some of them might be more than 12 months, but yeah, you can turn over that new leaf as you did and save. So again, something's better than nothing. Getting something. I've had plenty
I
of
didn't
people.
know you could do that.
Yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
I didn't know that you can go back to them and say, hey, look, I quit, or I did something else for my health, and go back and say, hey, can you readjust this premium?
Yeah. Or like I said, worst case, if that particular carrier won't reclassify, go apply for a new plan and start over. So
during that period. So if something, God forbid, was to happen, you had that coverage in place. So I think that's I think life insurance is something that is people don't, I don't know. There's like this stigma around it or something, like when they're younger, like, oh, I don't need it right now. I'm young. I've got my whole life in front of me. But the younger you get it, the better off you are. Like right now I've got the Gerber life insurance policies on my kids, right? And those transition over too. But when my daughters turn 18, one of the things I'm going to give them as a gift is something to put towards the premium on a whole life insurance policy for them, so that, and I'll buy the policy on them. And I think that's something that is so important, right? And to me, it's an investment in my children.
Sure.
Right? That's the way I look at it. But I've gotten myself to the point where I can do that. What if I did this? What if I did that? Forget about the what ifs at this point. From today, what do you need to do to get to that point in the future where you're going to be financially secure to do that?
Yeah.
What do you need to do today? That's the question you need to ask yourself.
And we talk about the journey and the roadblocks and obstacles along the way, because there's, again, another line, man plans and God laughs. You got greatest plans in the world. Oh, there's a spot on your lung, sir. Were you ever a smoker? Oh, okay. Now what? So you had these great plans. So you don't know, you're not Superman. You don't have X-ray vision. You can't self-diagnose. You don't know that there's some tumor growing on your pituitary gland that's going to F up your life. From the kid standpoint, when you mentioned you're putting some stuff on your kids, again, I'm not trying to pull on people's emotions, but how many kids are in the cancer ward? How many kids have juvenile diabetes? How many kids are born with problems? They're never going to be insurable should they survive into adulthood. And so they're going to have a family someday. They're going to need to protect that family someday, and they may be uninsurable. So how will they ever take care of that? So again, again, we talked earlier offline is you can go broke in the world of insurance. So how much is enough and where do you spend it and how do you prioritize it? But there are certain things that, look, there's two things in life that are guaranteed: death and taxes. We help protect you for both, right? That's what a planner does, is we protect you for both. So how do you optimize that? Why are they apathetic on life insurance? I don't want to bet on me dying. Okay. The other side of it is, how are your kids going to eat? How's your wife going to pay the bills? And again, it's just a level of responsibility and maturity that people are lagging. And look, at the end of the day, you can get a very inexpensive term insurance policy for $25-30 a month. And we're talking $1 million. If you're young enough, you don't have to do the fancy stuff. I'm sure you're doing like be your own banker, infinite banking type of thing. You mentioned the whole life, right? So that's a concept and that's a strategy, and that takes a bigger dollar amount. But you also said you had term insurance.
I do.
So you term insurance is renting. It's renting life insurance. If people don't understand what term is, you're renting it, and it's super inexpensive. Why? Because 97% of all term insurance expires. Expires means they don't pay. They only pay about 3%. So the rates are cheap because they're protecting the majority of the mass for a finite window of time. In that window of time, the likelihood of you getting hit by a bus, falling off a cliff, anvil dropping on your head, pretty minimal, right? They know what a 30-year-old life expectancy is, and it's a numbers game. And what I tell people at the end of the day is insurance, whatever the insurance is, homeowners, auto, life, it's simply a pool of money for everybody else that's managed by an insurance company to make a spread. And they want to manage the risk. They want to keep enough money coming in and out. They're happy to pay you because that's what it's for. And they just keep the spread.
Like the lotto, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Right? How does lottery get these huge jackpots? People keep buying the tickets and it pools up.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing with the insurance. Everyone's going to buy all the insurance. It pools up until it's
what it's all about.
But yeah, that's something I didn't even really think about too much, though, about how 97% of the term insurance policies never get paid out because they expire. I'm hoping my term insurance policy expires. That means
Don't we all?
for that 30-year period. That means I made it to my 60s. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And if you need something at that point, we're working with some families now. And they're older. We place insurance probably up to 80 years of age or more. Sometimes you'd have estate planning work that needs to be done with trusts, and you want to use life insurance as a leverage. You're later in life, you're going to pay up through the nose for it, but it still works.
Yeah, that's one of the things I got to do here shortly is do some estate planning.
It's one of the 6 boxes of planning is estate, right? Yeah. We're not trying to overwhelm your audience. You want to take small bites. You can't look at Mount Everest and say, oh, I'm never going to get there. You got to take one step, one leg at a time, and doing something's better than doing nothing. And again, we talked about life events and change as time changes and as you age. Getting a plan in and of itself going doesn't mean it's a complete plan. I tell people all the time, your financial plan is a Polaroid in the film of life. So think about that. We're just capturing a moment to say, here it is. Do you like where it's going? Now this is where you could fix it. And this is where we're going to take you. And if you don't like where it's going, I can't go back 5 years and told you should have bought Apple. So I can only fix it from here forward, and we're going to show you where it's taking you. And so now's the time to pivot. I need to save more. I need to spend less. I need to raise the rate of return. I need to work 2 extra years. Now all of a sudden you can accomplish that. Okay, then I got to start making those changes today. I got to tighten the belt. And people don't want to hear that, Mike. That's the problem. They don't want to hear it. The doctor gives them the medicine, they have to take it. I give them the medicine, they don't want to take it.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's hard to hear something that you don't want to hear. You don't want somebody telling you, hey, this is the route you need to go if you want to get to that point. They want to figure it out themselves, which is fine. You can figure it out yourself. Getting advice from somebody that knows the quickest way to get there versus you taking your own path and getting all those bumps, bruises, and scrapes, and you wind up paying more money going down that road to get there
Sure.
yourself, makes a big difference. So I don't know, like me personally, I do have, even though I run Average Joe Finances, all this stuff, I do have a financial advisor. I do have life insurance policies. I do use all these other products that I bring guests on the show that talk about it, because it's one of those things that when you, as you're growing in life, you need these other things to grow with you. I don't want to leave anything behind. I want to make sure that as I keep moving forward, I'm crossing all the T's and dotting all the
Yeah.
I's to
100%.
make sure that my family, my grandkids, that they're going to all be set for my actions, what I did in this life. As a parent, we always want to give our children a better life than what we had. I'm trying to take it to the next level, and I want to build generational wealth for my family, for it to get passed down so that my descendants will not have a life that I had growing up, where I had to work
Correct.
so hard and fight for this. And I'm not saying I want them to have a silver spoon. I still want them to have a good work ethic, but I want to know that they're taken care of after I leave this earth.
Sure.
And I feel it is a mentality thing, but it's also about how proactive are you going to be, right?
That's the word I've been
To-
clinging to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
How
proactivity.
proactive are you going to be to get on top of this stuff?
The P in Plan Man is the P for proactivity. It's 100%.
I love it.
It's being proactive. It's not being reactive. And everything I do with a client is to make them be as proactive as possible. Now, we might have a checklist of 40 things, and you might only do 2 of them, but we're going to address all 38, and you're going to make a decision. And not doing something about it is still a decision. But then I did my job to make sure we covered it, to let you know you had an option here.
Yeah.
That's the education, right? So you don't know what you don't know. That's why you and I both have a show. Like that one? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Because
like
we're here. I got to stick with me. I got plenty. But that's what it's about. You go to people to find out what you don't know, and then you make a decision of what you want to do with that information. Now, let's give them another what here. The world of insurance costs you nothing to work with a professional. We get paid by the insurance companies. Medicare pays us to enroll you in Medicare. Obamacare pays us to enroll you in Obamacare. The life insurance companies pay us to enroll you in life insurance. There's no charge. If you ever pay money to sit with an insurance agent, something's wrong. A financial planner, somebody who does a plan for you or manages your assets, like an attorney and accountant, will have billables, okay, of some level, whether they're charging you an asset management fee. But in the world of insurance, you should never go it alone. You're going to make mistakes, and it doesn't cost you more. I can't mark it up. I don't control the prices. You control the price based on your age and your health. It's that simple. Okay. So
and
why
how much
not?
coverage you want.
But I say to people like, oh, they jacked my rates. You had 3 accidents. You had 2 speeding tickets. Did they really jack your rates, or did you?
I like that you use that word "they," because a lot of people, when they want to put the blame on something else, the word that's used is "they." I've done it too in my life in the past. I've said, "Oh, they don't know what I'm going with," or "they did this," or "they did that." You got to be careful with the "they" word, because a lot of times if you're using "they," you're projecting something that you did
That's right.
onto "they." But yeah, I like that you use that. I just wanted to point that out.
I have frequently, again, many years, we have the coming to Jesus conversation, right? And I'm Jewish, so I could say that. But the coming to Jesus is putting the mirror in front of you. You got to take a hard look at your reality. Now, I'm friendly and I want to be your friend, but I'm going to hold you accountable. If you're hiring me and engaging me, you're empowering me to keep my foot on your neck, because you need and want my help. You raised your hand. Now, I'm not going to bug you. I don't cold call you. I didn't hound you to come to me. But once you come to me and you're empowering me, I'm going to hold you accountable. And that's what you're getting out of your financial advisor is, Mike, you said you wanted this. What you're doing is not matching what you're saying. Your actions aren't meeting your words. What do you want to do about fixing it? So it's come to Jesus time. And people have these grandiose ideas, and then I have to poke them in the eye and say, you're not doing what you need to be doing. So let's look in the mirror. It's coming to Jesus. What do you really want? What's your priority? How bad do you want it? Are you willing to cut your lifestyle by $5,000 a month to do it? No. Then you can't have it. You willing to go work 5 more years to make it happen? No, then you can't have it. What are you willing to sacrifice? Real quick, there's 3 things you can control in the planning process. The amount of money you save or spend, which is your budget. And everybody cringes at the word budget. What's your budget today? What does your budget look like in retirement? What are you saving today correlates to what you can have later and what you want to spend. So the amount of money you save and spend is number 1. The rate of return on your money. If you're a CD investor and a nervous Nelly and you don't want to buy real estate and you don't want to be in the stock market and you're making 2% returns on CDs, are you ever going to get where you want to be? If you got $1 billion, sure. But if you're saving money for 30 years at 2% and Mike's saving it at 12%, and you're both saving the same amount of money, you know how many more millions Mike's going to have over you? And the third thing you control is your time. And time is our biggest ally. The counting of money with the rate of return tied to time. So if you want to retire at 60 with $10,000 a month of income and you want to be a nervous Nelly investor at 3%, what does that look like? And if that's not reaching your objectives, which of the 3 are you willing to change? Because that's what you can control, those 3. So if you can't make it happen on 2%, are you willing to go to 4? Are you willing to go to 8? If you can't do it on $1,000 a month, can you come up with 2? If you can't retire at 60, are you willing to work till 65? Something's got to give. And so that's the proactivity and that's the planning we were touching on earlier is I'm going to show you the path. And if you don't like where the path's going, what are you willing to change? And that's the coming to Jesus conversation.
I like that. I like the having to look into the mirror. As a matter of fact, I just had an episode about that recently where I had to face a failure with a business that I had, a business that I started that was not doing well. And I was in the hole for 40 grand. And I kept pushing to try to keep this thing going. Yeah, it just was not working out. And I'm in a mastermind. And I actually had somebody basically put the mirror in front of me and say, look at this. Does this look right? And I was just like, no, it doesn't. So I actually went to my vision board. This was in June. Go to my vision board, just completely scrap it and say, okay, I got to start over. Here I am halfway through the year and I got to start over because I didn't set up the right wickets and goals for this particular thing, and I'm not meeting what I should have set up for it. And because of that, I'm failing in this area. And it was one of those come to Jesus moments for me that I had to go in and accept responsibility and shift my focus for the rest of the year, which I did. And now I'm in.
But how did you feel? How empowered were you and relieved were you once you got to that point of capitulation?
Oh, a lot, very relieved for
Stress,
sure, because it was
sleeping.
one of those things that was just hanging over my head that like every month, okay, where are we at? Oh, we're still negative this month, not doing anything. And I'm just like, and it's just hanging over my head. And then when I made the decision to just let it go, it's, oh, okay, this ain't hanging over my head anymore. I still got to pay off the debt that's here, but I don't have to worry about this anymore at this point. I don't have to focus on where I'm going with this because it's gone. Yeah, no, I thought I like the example you shared because I feel like a lot of people need to have that. Face yourself in the mirror. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and say that you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing right now? I think that's super important for everybody.
Let me jump on something to what you just said with the epiphany that you had and having to face it. So let's correlate that to somebody investing. And this is stuff that I dealt with since my early days, the market crash in 87 and the 90s, the 2000s, So I've been through stock market corrections and crashes, like literal crashes, okay? And money is emotional. Your investments get emotional. You're buying something that's going down and it's emotionally taxing on you. And the greatest relief people find is selling and letting go because now they're not stressing over it. But this is when people make bad investment decisions because their emotional pain as the market is going down escalates. And when the market's down 20%, I hold their hand. The market's down 30%, I hold their hand. Market's down 40%, they don't want their hand held anymore. They want the pain to stop. And that's when the market tends to turn. That's when the markets capitulate. And it waits for the last weakest investor to bail out. And Wall Street sits there praying, P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y. They're preying on you to sell because they want your 40% discounted investment portfolio. Your million is 600,000. You've had enough. You're afraid you're going to lose another 400,000. You're afraid it's going to go to zero. If it just lost 40%, what's left? and our critical mass gets violated. And I tell people point blank over my 30-year career investing, you don't pay me to get you in, you're going to pay me to keep you in, because you're going to get emotionally distracted and you're going to make a bad decision. And I'm going to talk you out of that decision. And you're going to watch that I'm going to be right most times out of not, right? And I used to have my two Jerrys, real quick. My two Jerrys were older gentlemen, retired, and they were my barometers. They're both passed since. But every time they called to sell, no matter how many times I held their hand, no matter how many times they listened to me and they hung in there, when their pain was met, they're like, look, I know you've been telling me, but I've had enough. I'm like, you're the barometer. It's time to buy. What do you mean? I'm like, I'm telling you, now you're down 4%, you're down 35%. You've had enough. This is what I'm telling you to do. We're going to buy more. We're going to do buy more. What do you get? No, we're going to rotate some money. We're going to take, because now you've hit your pain point where you want absolutely out. And guess what? Time and time again, it was 100% the right move, not getting out. So it just goes to what you're talking about of where when the money's easy, people in the financial world get taken for granted. What do I need you for? What am I paying you 1%? I could do this better myself. To a point, all monkeys can hit the target. But again, as I said, you don't pay me to put you in. You're going to pay me to keep you in and know what to do when the shit's hitting the fan. Can I curse on your show?
Yeah.
When the shit hits the fan.
I got the little
Okay.
E on there.
Okay. To your story of giving up and bailing out of the business being a good decision, unfortunately, that ties into people with their investments. If it's in real estate, if they're in a sinkhole, the best thing they can do is to get away from something that's just bad and recognizing it. And conversely, there might be a stock that they put themselves into or were put into that it is time to get out. How do you know? But if you're in a mutual fund and you're protected and insulated and diversified, your mutual fund's not going out of business. That stock may go out of business. Tesla someday could go out of business, right? Netflix put Blockbuster out of business, right? It changed. The buggy whip from the days of horseless carriage came about, but the buggy whip guy went out of business, right? And maybe the gas car engine will eventually be totally electric or something else that's even created down the road, right? Cell phones. Who uses a phone anymore, right? Who's got a rotary phone in their house? So technology changes. So nothing's guaranteed to last forever. So every investment has to be assessed. And there is times to bail depending on what it is. So don't take that the wrong way. But most of us are in mutual funds, which has hundreds of different stocks. And those 100 stocks are not going to go out of business. But you can make
what
a
I like
bad
to stick with because of that. I like to stick with mutual funds and ETFs. I feel
there's diversification.
Yeah. The fact that
Right?
you buy this one stock, but it's actually split into 100 different other companies. Yeah, that's definitely important.
But again, I'm going to go back into the 90s, right? We had the Nifty 50, we had the AOLs and the double clicks and names people aren't even going to know who exist. And we had a stock called Lucent. Lucent was a spinoff of AT&T. In its heyday, went from about $3 to about 80 cents. And along the way, it had hiccups and pullbacks and setbacks, but it kept going up. And so everybody believed what they were seeing. Everybody believed that every time it went from 60 to 40, it would go back to 60 and then 70. And they bought more at 40 on the dip, and they watched it go to 60 and then 70, and then they bought more and they watched it go to 80. And eventually the paradigm shift. And the $87 peak got to 70. Oh, I got to buy more at 70. It's going to go to 100. Oh, no, this time it went to 60. Oh, I got to buy more. I liked it at 70. I got to buy more at 60. And it went down and it went to 50. I got to buy more at 50. I'm like, maybe we want to stop buying so much. And it went all the way down to 75 cents, Mike. 75 cents. Where along the way do you hit the panic button? Where along the way do you say, you know what? So getting in is easy. Getting out is hard. There's another so what, right?
Same thing happened recently with Bitcoin. Right?
How much time you got?
People were still buying it, at 60,000, and then it dropped down to 20,000. They're like, so it can go either way with anything. Like you can invest in a really good company, and
you got to know what you're owning.
CEO that comes into place that makes a very poor decision, and now your stocks just drop 70%. That's why I like being diversified and not being putting all my eggs in one basket. So that's both with the stock market, but that's also in real estate. I don't like to be in just one market. I like to be in different markets because different markets have different growth. They have different cash flow. So it matters that you diversify, no matter what it is, whether it's real estate, the stock market, whatever it is that you do, you need to be diverse in all of that. But
You need to, if I may, you need
yeah,
to
yeah,
know what you own.
yes,
People don't know what they own. They don't understand what a growth fund versus a international versus a value versus a small cap. I don't know what emerging markets means. I got half my money in it. Why? It did really well. But do you know what emerging markets are? No. Oh, I bought this mutual fund. It was up 48% last year. Oh, let me see. What is it? Really? You put money in, like, how much money? Now, I'm not saying you don't have money in precious metals, but what percentage? Bitcoin, do you know what you're buying? So real quick, people go to my social media. It's out there. It's time stamped. I posted it. It was a screenshot from CNBC that came across my phone a little over 2 years ago. I'd have to go find it, but I could find it. It's a screenshot that Goldman Sachs was announcing public access to Bitcoin for the first time. Bitcoin was around 58, 59,000. And I took a screenshot and I posted it. And this is only because I got 35 years under my belt. I said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm calling the top on Bitcoin right now. Why? Because from $1 to 59,000, they wouldn't let you play, Mike. And now at 59,000, they're going to open the doors and let everybody in the public play. That's your sell signal. The smart money needs an out. They prey on the small money. Now we're going to give you access to something you couldn't get at 30,000, 40,000. People are clamoring over it. Everybody loves it and's got to have it, but you can't get it, so you want it more. The power of scarcity and denial, right? That guy's looking at that car too, Mike. Who? I want that gold fancy convertible, right? No, I got another, right? They play the game. So you can't have this, Mike. Sorry, you can't have Bitcoin. Oh, come on, I'm watching it go up. It's 30,000. I can't, it's 50,000. You can't get me. Hey, how much you want, buddy? How much you want now? I'll meet at the trough. Okay. Now, I was off by a couple of bucks because you got to let the sucker make a couple of dollars. So now the door is open. The buyers are coming in. But again, here's your next so what? For every buyer, there's a seller. For every seller, there's a buyer. What do they know differently than you, Mike? Somebody had to sell you that Bitcoin at 59,000. Why were they selling? And why were you buying? So again, people, I'm not disparaging Bitcoin. It's just society, this country, the things Wall Street doesn't want you to know and how they prey on the small investor. And those are episodes on my show, what Wall Street doesn't want you to know from my 30 plus years. The retail public is a distribution channel for them to get out of their stuff. They need buyers when they want to sell. And I can go down another rabbit hole with real estate.
I don't think we have the time for that. Actually, I want to go ahead and transition this, Bruce, to something that we call the final round. It's where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show. And it gives us an idea of how you are under a little bit of pressure, which I'm sure you're going to crush it.
All right, I'm nervous.
You ready to go?
Let's go, baby.
All right. So the final round. First question for you, Bruce, is what's the biggest mistake you've ever made when it comes to your finances, investing, real estate, or just business in general?
Got a clock ticking? Man, there's plenty. Yikes. I got so many. How do I pick one? I'll give one that more relative to the listener. Options, stock market, stock options is a gamble. I'm a gambler. I love the Vegas and the Atlantic cities. And I got very caught up in option trading. And it's a short-term bet that yields very little over time. And have way more write-offs on my tax return from stock options. So I would say the smart money sells covered calls. They sell puts. So they leverage the time instrument. If you don't understand options, go do some homework and research. But I would say misdirecting the gambling side of options.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, Bruce, the second question, and these all kind of tie into each other, is what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first got started? So we're rewinding back over 37 years before you got into this industry. What is something that you've learned over that time period that you wish you knew when you first got started?
Well, I'll stick with the stock options. I pissed away a lot of money over the years that if I had been more prudent and financially responsible with those dollars, that $2,000, that $5,000, that $10,000 that you kept losing, and you put that into IBM, General Motors, Ford, McDonald's, Nike, names, household names, and just stacked those $2,000, $4,000, $5,000 losses year over year, time over time, collect dividends, reinvest the dividends, yeah, that would be a lesson.
Okay, right on. Okay, the third question of the final round is, do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started out today? And maybe something that you haven't shared already, because you already gave us a bunch of really great golden nuggets.
Somebody starting out as an investor
Yes.
or general finance? It's
Just
gonna
in
be
general, they're just starting their financial journey. Maybe they just got out of debt. What's the next best step that you would recommend to somebody?
it's going to be cliche again, Mike, but it's plan your work and work your plan, right? The plan is a journey. It's a map. The map's going to have detours. There's always construction, roadblocks, and detours along the way. You have to be prepared to pivot and adjust with that, not let it get you down. Your business decision to walk away from that $40,000 loss is going to empower you. It's going to give you a life lesson. You're going to learn to do better next time. And that's what life is all about. It's the journey. Failure is part of that. You need to embrace the failure. Mike, I raised two boys and I have a stepson. My kids played sports. At least I encouraged them to play sports. My older son was more athletic. My younger son, not so much. I told them at an early age, I don't care if you strike out, swing at the ball. You can't sit there with the bat on your shoulder. And so that's a metaphor for life, is it not? You got to take your swings. You're going to hit some, you're going to miss some. Mike took a swing on his business opportunity that he recognized at $40,000. This ain't going my way. It's time to change the bat. It's time to change the game. It's time to get a different ball, get on a different field. It's okay to fail. Swing, keep swinging. Work your plan your work, be willing and able to pivot and adjust, because nothing will stay as is.
Yeah, no, I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, Bruce, the final
Last one.
question of the final round, and
go.
I'll preface this with, besides your own,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast or both?
I'm going to give you two, all right? And for different purposes, I think.
All right, break the
So-
rules. It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
I think one's for everybody. And that's a book that I read eye-opening in the 90s, The Millionaire Next Door. The Millionaire Next Door was eye-opening for me because it helped me correlate my messaging that I didn't really have a correlation to. It's what I was doing, but not really knowing and understanding or having the concept. And so The Millionaire Next Door talks about the difference of the guy who leases and overspends versus the guy who buys a 3-year-old car and saves, right? And the lifestyles. And more importantly, as I was raising my children, what you were doing to your children growing up in that environment. And so it helped me educate my clients on the potential damage they were doing to their children. As you mentioned, you want to create generational wealth, but you don't want to give them a silver spoon. Good luck. Because what you and I came from, the school of hard knocks, with not having, helped create us and motivate us. And so my kids grew up in that having side of things and aren't necessarily as motivated the way you and I were motivated. So you creating that trust baby, grandchild, and great-grandchild is going to open up different problems. And so you need to understand some of that, and you can adjust and tweak what your desire and your plan is to make sure it's not necessarily crippling to those future generations. So Millionaire Next Door.
Well, part of that planning, just so you know, too, is to ensure that they don't just get everything.
Of course not.
It's
Gotta stay in trust.
there's going to be a lot of work to get there. So
You got to keep the puppeteer strings, my man.
Yeah,
That's what you got to do.
absolutely.
All right. Now, the other one, which I found when I restarted my business, Damon John, The Power of Broke. Power of Broke. I think it's a great quick read book and helps give the reader a sense that you don't need a ton of money. Having money doesn't mean you could get there faster. You have to evaluate where and how you're putting your money every single opportunity, whether it's paying for your phone bill, going out to dinner. Every dollar you're spending on a lifestyle is going to impact how fast you're going to grow your business. And you have to make those decisions. Do I want to invest in a podcast? Do I want to invest in social media? How do I want to spend that money? And what's my ROI going to be on that money? For a new business owner starting out, whether it's real estate, investments, job hunting, whatever it is, I think getting a handle on that and a perspective on how you go about it, because it's tied to budget, right? The core of every lifeline in the plan man's universe is budget. And the power of broke works from that. I don't have a big budget.
Yeah.
And
No,
the
love that.
mistake,
Great recommendations.
and it ties in with the millionaire next door concept, because just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to throw it at those opportunities. They still may not be a good opportunity. So when you don't have the money, it's easy to say, no, I can't afford that today. Do I want it later when I have the money? I don't know.
Absolutely. No, great recommendations. Okay. So that is it for the final round, Bruce. You survived. Pat yourself on the back. But I do have one more question for you. And this is the most important question of this entire interview, right? People are sitting here listening to this and saying, okay, I need to look myself in the mirror, get this figured out. I need to plan for my future. I need to figure out what insurance plans I need. And I need help with that. So I want to know where I could find more information about Bruce. So if you could, can you share your website with us? Any social media profiles? And of course, where can we listen to your podcast?
All right. So real quick, because I have two websites, confuse everybody, but go to planman.tv and that'll take you right to our YouTube channel, Ask the Plan Man. So planman.tv, you can go see all our previous episodes. You could, subscribe and everything, and we appreciate that. WeinsteinWealth.com is our insurance website. Ask the Plan Man's our Plan Man website, which just correlates to the blogs and the show again. But 8 for Plan Man, toll-free number. You call me anytime. But anything with Ask the Plan Man, you can find me, email and otherwise. Like you said, no cost to talk with us, no cost to work with us. We're happy to help you. If we can't do it, we know people who can. We're more the commandeer, right? We talked about being the navigator of the ship. So we work with a lot of professionals that we just don't do what they do, and we'll bring them in. So whatever you need, you just want to get sound advice.
All right, fantastic. So I will make sure I have those links and that number in the show notes to make it easy for all my listeners to find you. They can copy and paste or click away. The only thing I ask is if you're driving right now, please don't do it while you're driving. Bruce, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking your time today to have this conversation with me. It was genuine, and I felt like there was a lot of value added to both me and my audience just through this conversation. So thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you again for having me, and good luck to everybody.
Absolutely. And hey, to all my listeners, I want to thank all of you for joining me and our special guest, Bruce Weinstein, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's episode with Bruce. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.